Hi everybody, Jo here again. You know what that means? Grab yourself a brew, maybe a cheeky snack. Are we going biscuit today? Do you know what? I think you should. I think you deserve it. I'm only saying that so it means I can join you. Make myself a nice coffee, I think, and get a nice half-covered biscuit, bit of chocolate, bit of biscuit. The reason I'm popping in today is over the weekend I set my ladies a challenge of embracing grey and actually doing a design, and this was my sample, and just to actually have some lovely time colouring. And I think there's a lot of ladies, gentlemen at the minute who are struggling with one thing and another, and just sitting, relaxing, no pressure, doing a little bit of colouring can just be the answer. And I did put this on social media and I've had such lovely comments, and I've had so many emails and messages, and thank you everybody for those, asking me if I could just do a little tutorial on this. So I thought I'd do something similar, not exactly the same one. I'm going to use a different stamp, but just show you the technique and the way that I approached this. So if you want to grab yourself that brew, I'm on water today, just for the minute, not all day obviously, just at the minute. Now, this was a DL, a slimline card. And for this one, I used a stamp off this lovely stamp set. And it's Aall Create. And it's number 195. And it's called Flowers and Gears. And it's by Olga Heldween, and absolutely beautiful. And this is the long stamp that I used. And that is just perfect for a slimline card. But I thought I'd just use a different one for this. So I'm just going to stand my card up there, and I'm actually going to use a 5 centimetre square because this is going on a 6x6 card. So this one is 5 centimetre square, and I thought I've got a favourite flower, and this is one of the earlier stamp set. It's number 199 from Aall Create, and it's called Eclectic Stems, and it's by Tracy Evans. And this flower here is one of my favourite flowers, and if I show you the stamp set you'll see how much I use it. Look at that. But I do find this is useful, and I hate to say it, if you were to need a sympathy card, or if somebody's having a bit of a rough time and you don't want to send them something that's too bold, too bright. Now, this flower looks lovely on its own, and you can actually use your acetate. So again, I'm thinking I'm going to put my flower here so that I've got room should I want a sentiment there, because I've got some lovely sentiments that are sort of quite long. And often we don't leave enough space. And for this, I want just the simple flower to speak for itself, and the words. I want to put some nice words on this. So I'll start off by just getting my little stamping mat. Managed to get a clean piece of paper. Well, actually, as you can see, it's got ink on the other side, but there we go. Now I'm going to get my Aall Create block, and I'm just going to use the black versifying Claire to stamp this. I'm just going to ink it up again, lots of light tapping. Sometimes, I mean, it is nice, as you know, I do like to do designs with lots of layers, adding lots of things, but sometimes I think it's nice just to go back to basics and actually see the beauty of the stamps and let the artwork just speak. So lots of light tapping. You do need plenty of ink. There's such detail on these stamps. And I've just got a bit of ink on my now I know on the block it wouldn't transfer, but you know what, I might get it on my hands. Turn that over. Right, so I'm thinking let's just have the flower here. I have been painting with brushos this morning, look, so I've got some lovely but it shows I've been doing something, doesn't it? They are lovely, but I do find this stay in my hands, look. Now again, give the ink time to just soak in. I know we say that time and time again, but it doesn't do any harm, just reiterating it. And again, remember your Aall Create blocks are flexible, so just give it a bit of a flex. And what I like to do, this is the bit for me where I've got the most detail. So as I lift it up, I put extra pressure on that and almost roll it off. And look at that. Such a beautiful, beautiful image. Now again, I'm just going to turn that over and give it a bit of a blot because your versifying clay, it's a slower drying ink. So I'm getting the good habit of blotting it. Now to colour this, I'm just going to start off very simply, and it's nothing new, you've all seen this before, but sometimes it's nice to just use the same technique, so it's nothing different, nothing, you know, that's going to tax you, but I think you get such a lovely result. And if you're feeling a bit down, it's just something lovely to relax, take your mind off things. Now I'm using oxides and I'm using weathered wood. I've fallen in love with weathered wood so much. Again, I'm afraid I do keep using it. But you know what, for me, I think if you're purchasing these ink pads, you want to use them again and again. It's no good me using it for one sample and then the following week saying, oh, you need another colour, you need another colour. And all I'm going to do is do a quick watercolour. Now, I haven't put any embossing on this. I just want it as it is. Now, I've done that with my wide paintbrush. I have got a narrower paintbrush, which I'm just going to pick up the ink. And almost, I'm just going to leave the tips. I'm not going to fill in quite the whole design. Just want those little tips just to be left with a bit of white. And to me, that's just starting, you're getting, thinking about your reflection and your highlights. And so if you just leave that little bit white there, it's almost giving us some highlight. Right, now, this is tricky, the stem. Just hold our breath a bit. Sorry if my head gets in the way. Really don't want to see my hair. Still haven't had it cut yet. Next week, I can't wait. It's all going. I'm going to add a little bit there so it's a bit darker. And then what I'm going to do, just because I can, I'm just going to add a few little grey, just corner to corner. You know, I have a thing about corner to corner. That's enough. And that's the basis of what we're going to do. Now, normally, I would let that dry naturally, but obviously, you don't want to spend the next sort of half hour with me letting it dry naturally. So we'll just put the heat tool on it and give it a bit of a blast. Just gonna, obviously it would dry better naturally, but as I say, for our purposes on here, I could have done the clever thing of stopping it and, you know, manipulating my video, but you know I'm not that clever. My IT skills are so limited. I literally record and that's it. Once I start, unfortunately, what happens, happens. But I think you're used to me by now. So we've got a couple of things left to do. We want to add a little bit more detail. So for the detail and the shading, we're going to use our pastel pencils again. So these are our chalk pastel pencils and the by Stabilo. Not easy to say that. Chalk pastel pencils by Stabilo. And I'm using a white, a light blue. I know we're doing grey, but it's nice to have that hint of light blue in the grey, because often when you look at things, I mean, have you ever looked at, say, there was a blackbird in my garden the other day, and it's funny, the male was sort of black and he almost looked like he had purple in his wings, but then the female was black, but she looked like she had really brown tones in her wings. And often it's that, so I'm going for grey, but almost with that little hint of the blue. And I've got a grey and a black. I was just going to bring the finished one in and show you. If I just bring it a bit closer, look. Can you see we've got blue here? Blue here. So it's nice to have that blue, but from a distance, it just gives that overall grey effect. And I do think that's lovely about colour, just to have that bit of a play. I mean, I have to say this one probably took me about maybe an hour and a half to do, but it was lovely. It was just a lovely time. It really was. But obviously, I know you don't want me here for an hour and a half. Now, while this is just drying a little bit more, I'm going to add my shade, just to give this time to dry. And for this, I'm using my clean colour. Now again, you can use charcoal pencils. You could use your grey pastel pencil if you wanted. But with this being a brush marker, for me, it's just perfect. And I'm just going to add some shade on the right here, the right side, and the base. So I'm going to add a bit of shade there. And on the right side of the leaf here, just a bit there. And then again on the bottom and the right of these petals. I'm not going all the way around. I just like it for me on one side. But again, you do it with what you're happy with. If you want to add shade all the way around to make it pop, it's your design. You do exactly. For me, that's enough just on the right and underneath. And I'm just getting myself a little cotton bud. Again, biodegradable cotton buds. And I'm going to come in and I'm just going to start. And I know that here I want my deepest colour, so that's going to be my black. So I'm going to come in with that. And I know here we're going to have some shade. So these petals that are underneath, they will be the ones they'll have the shaded area, won't they? Because they're underneath. So I'm just putting my black for anywhere that's underneath. And again, I just want some shade here. And a little bit. I don't want much. I just want a hint down that side. And often you can use almost feathering strokes. Now for this, because I'm going to actually add blue into here. I mean, you could be tempted. You could, if you wanted a pop of orange, say, you could do all this in grey and add a pop of orange. But I just want to keep mine all grey. So I'm going to add some blue just down the leaves a little. And again, I'm almost sort of doing a feather type motion. And I just want a bit of blue on there. And then for me, all I'm going to do is my grey, I'm always going to use as a blender. So in between the black here and where I've put the blue, I'm just doing sort of like a feathery sort of stroke. And it's just going to blend. Because these are pastel pencils, you will get, obviously, the pastel. And that's where I just find this almost works as a blender. You can come in with your cotton bud and just move that pastel around a little. And also when you move it, you're almost setting it. It's like your charcoal. When you give it a smudge, it just helps to set it. And again, I always just give a little blow. I try not to put my hand across because you don't want to get, if you do that too much, you can smudge it. Just want a little bit more blue in there. And I just love the way the sort of pastel effect, the way that this looks. And you don't really need to do much more to that. If you want, we could just come in with a little bit more grey here, I think. A little bit more blue. And again, you can just play and add as much or as little as you want. But I think, let me smudge that little bit of black I just added. I think that looks lovely, just as it is. And the finishing touch, a little bit of, we've got a white acrylic marker here and a nice dot there. And maybe a couple of, again, don't want to overcook it. We don't want, you know, white everywhere. A little bit on the stem, just highlight. This one here, let's just catch that area. And I think that few little dots there. And I think that is lovely. You don't need anything else, do you? And that's just the way that I approached. I mean, for me, that on... Now, I probably would matte and layer onto black, I think, would make that really pop. Or I could do the black Sharpie line. Let's add the black Sharpie line. And let's just see, because I think that really would make it pop. So again, so all I'm doing with my ruler, and again, this is just, you could mat and layer onto black card, but this for me just saves having to have black card, and it saves on weight if you're posting. And as I keep saying, I've done this quite quick today, but you can take your time, and certainly with the one I've done earlier. And as I say, I'm specifically leaving mine without a sentiment so that I can add some nice words. I've got some nice words in mind, some for a really special friend, some very nice, thoughtful words. And you put that on there. And I think to get that design with some lovely words here, I just think would be so nice. And as I say, didn't take long, but I really enjoyed just creating that. And it was the weathered wood distress oxide with water to just paint your first layer. I'll bring my other one in, and then those chalk pastel pencils. If you want to come in with other types of pencils, you can even just use your HB, you know, your HB, your hard and soft pencils. I mean, you may have a look. I bet you may have some of them, you know, dare I say, from your school days. I remember we used to have 6B, which is very soft, which is a dark one. Or you can use your charcoal. You know, think about what you've got, but maybe have a go. I'd love to know how you get on. So thank you for joining me today. Just look at your stamps as well. It's a lovely time to look at your stamps. I mean, I just think it works so well with the florals. So have a look at what you've got and just enjoy some nice time. Have that nice cup of coffee, that nice snack, and just have time colouring and creating a beautiful piece of artwork that you can then send to a friend. And put a nice message in. Just send them a hug in a card. I think that's so important at the minute. So I'm going to finish there. I'm going to send you all a hug. It's so important. You take that hug from me. Let it warm your heart. And you take care. I'll pop back soon. Bye for now.